Hello everyone, welcome back to my Let's Play Eternal video series. My name is Dayv Doberne, aka Sunyveil, your host, and today we are going to be we're going to be taking a look at the tier 1 deck list that we're going to be building towards, and we're going to be using the deck editor and looking at the ins and outs of that, as well as playing our first Gauntlet and our first ranked match. So, I just booted up the program, and as you can see, I have 3 quests available for me. These two are just part of just playing through the game. I have to play a ranked match, and I'll get 2 silver chests, and if I complete a gauntlet, then I'll get a free forge, so that's pretty sweet. This one is one of the daily quests, and gain 50 influence. So all I have to do is gain 50 influence. Basically, each time you play a sigil, you're going to get 1 or 2, depending on how much influence it gives, and that's a pretty easy quest, although it may take a while. Okay, so let's go to the deck editor. So I'm going to click on my cards here, and we have these starter decks that we got last time on the tutorial and campaign. And I actually went to rngeternal.com and took one of the deck lists on the website, and I'm going to import it. I copied it there. There are importable deck lists available on the website. All you have to do is copy it to your clipboard and then press import deck, and it will show you the deck. So so this is the interface of the deck editor. It has all your cards. You click them to add to the deck, and then they appear here. Anyway, this is a better way of looking at all the cards in the deck. This is Righteous Rakano with Deep Forged Plate. It's a good aggressive deck. I think this deck has been always at or on the fringe of tier 1, so it's certainly very powerful regardless of what the metagame looks like. It's a pretty good level 0 deck. So it plays Finest Hours, which are pump spells, inspires, Oni Ronins, basically aggressive units, and ways to get those through. Aggressive units with Warcry specifically, and ways to get those through. Champion of Glory, Rakano Outlaw, and this is what the tier 1 deck list looks like. I will be trying to build this in its entirety, including all of the rares, and it even has a couple 4 total legendaries at the top end, so we're going to try to build that. So that's what we're going to be building towards, and the deck that along the way I'm going to be running decks that are similar to this in the idea of building toward this deck. So we're going to call this Righteous Rakano. If you want to know more about this deck list, I have a pretty unsuccessful YouTube video on playing this deck, but we'll get to know it as we play it. But all you really need to know for now is that this is the deck we're building toward. It is in fact tier 1. It has a few legendaries, it's got a bunch of rares, but hopefully by the end of this video series we'll be able to play it. Okay, so I'm going to click done, and it will save this deck. It is invalid, but it'll still save it. So as you can see, the Righteous Rakano has an X on it, and we can't actually build that deck. So now I'm going to clone the deck. So I'm going to clone this deck, and I'm going to go ahead and edit it. And I'm going to call this I'll call this the current Rakano. So this one is going to be the deck that we play, and we're going to modify it such that such that we have all the cards that we need to play with it. The first thing, though, is that we actually have a pack unopened, and I'm going to go ahead and unopen that. One, because obviously it gives us cards, some of which we might want to use, but secondly, it also gives us shift stones. Each pack has 200 shift stones, and that will help you craft the cards you need. Shift stones are like dust, or I don't know what they call it in the game. It's what you craft your cards with. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I do want to save this. I know this deck is invalid. It's just a copy of the other Rakano deck, and I'm going to go ahead and open the pack. So in each pack there are 3 uncommons, a slew of commons, I guess this is 8, and 1 rare or legendary card. And any of these cards may be premium, although it doesn't look like we have any of these as premium so far. And honestly, in this pack, there's nothing that we're interested in. I'm going to be pretty cutthroat about disenchanting cards. Oh, sorry. We only get 100 shift stones. That was actually changed from the closed beta to the open beta. Each pack only has 100 shift stones. My mistake. But the rares disenchant for 200 shift stones. So total, essentially, you get 300 shift stones if you open a rare that you're not interested in. Okay, let's go back to that deck. So this is what we want. Unfortunately, to create all of it, we need 26,000 shift stones, and we have a lowly 100. But we're going to try to create the basic components for this today. Oh, I didn't. The name wasn't saved. Okay, so this is current Arcano. Okay. Okay, so I think some of the most important cards are. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we go about creating the cards we need for this deck, I'm going to go through my collection. Oh, don't want to press that. And actually disenchant the cards that I don't want. So I'm not going to bother disenchanting uncommons or commons because they don't disenchant for very much. But each of these rares, like this Charchain Flail, you can destroy for 200 shift stones. And Charchain Flail is like a fringe card. Constructed Staples I won't actually disenchant because if you were to be playing on your own account, there's no way you would get rid of a card that you would need down the line, that you would definitely need down the line to make this deck. Well, that's not entirely true, but anyway, I don't feel too bad about disenchanting that Charchain Flail. Let's take a look at what other rares we have. Actually, we can filter. This is the filter button here. It doesn't. It's kind of tricky because it doesn't look like anything. So we're going to take a look at rares and legendaries that we own, and see if there are any cards we want to disenchant. And sure enough, there are. General Azaleo, as good as he is in draft, I guess he could be good in this deck, but we're going to. He doesn't see any. He doesn't see any constructed play. Same with World Pyre Phoenix, Steelbound Dragon. So we do have a legendary in Caleb, Uncrowned Prince, but unfortunately it is locked. You can't disenchant this one. They give you 5 legendaries, 1 for each faction during the campaign, but you can't disenchant them. Okay, Reliquary Raider, don't need you. Xenon Obelisk and Predatory Carnosaur both find their ways into a lot of lists, so I'm going to keep those around. Disenchant the Hall of the Lost Kings, Order of the Spire, Aegis Wings. Roland's Honor Guard is actually like somewhat playable. It's just so big and beefy that it's worth considering, but it doesn't, like in finished deck lists, non-budget deck lists, it doesn't see much play. Okay, Crystallize is a card. Crystallize is a card that sees some play. It's kind of a fringe card, but I feel like if you're playing Shimmer Pack, you want it. Okay, Staff of Stories is a card that sees play in a lot of control decks. I think that's Thunderstrike Dragon. Is fringe playable again, but not something we really need to worry about. Okay, Channel the Tempest. We can go ahead and disenchant this. This used to see some play in control decks, but even then, it fell out of favor. We're going to destroy the Lethrai Falchion. Impending Doom is worth keeping because it's just huge and sees a lot of play in shadow decks. Ashara is also a card that doesn't see a lot of play. I think that if it was like a 5/4 or something, it would actually see some amount of play, because at 6/3 she dies to Torch and Sword of Ikaria, 2 of the most common removal spells in the metagame. So we're going to go ahead and destroy her also. Sorry, Ashara. And Argenport Ringmaster, this card is not very good. It's not even good in draft. I won't pick it very often. And that looks like, ooh, this Vara is not tied to our account somehow. I don't think, no, maybe it is. It's just, this diamond looks a little differently. looks a little different. Okay, so we got 2,900 shift stones out of that. So yeah, let's take out. We're definitely not crafting these. Those legendaries, and I don't think we can craft righteous furies. Aside from that, can we craft most of these? This is 11,000. We need to get rid of a few more rares. So I have in the imported deck list, I have a bunch of cards that it shows you how many cards that the deck list wants, and if this number appears in red, that means that you're going to have to create more. You don't have enough in order to play it, and then you can press this create all button to see where you need to spend those shift stones. We're going to go without. We're just going to cut down on all these rares and see if we can craft the rest of the deck. So Hammer of Mights, Valkyrie Enforcer, and what was that last one? Champion of Glory. So aside from all the rares and the legendaries, we can actually craft all of the commons and uncommons in this deck, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this has all of the powers we need, right? It's 13, 17 plus 8 equals 25. Oh, one more comment about deck building in this game. I suppose I should have gone over this earlier, but the maximum number of cards you can have in a deck of the same type is 4, which is why there are so many 4-ofs. The total deck size is 75, and your deck has to be at least 1/3 power, between 1/3 and 2/3 power, which usually comes out to between 25 and 50 power. The reason behind this is because with the redraw restriction, if there's no limit to how few powers you can play, you can only play 2 power, and then you would draw them every time on the redraw, and then you could have a deck that runs entirely on those 2 power. Anyway, so those are the restrictions. Basically, your deck needs to have at least 25 power, and for most decks, it only wants 25 powers. Anyway, we're going to reset the filters. So we were just filtering out rares and legendaries for us to craft. For us to disenchant to craft the rest of the cards in our deck, and I'm pretty happy with the number of cards we can already create. So we're going to filter it so that's just fire and justice, so that we can see the cards that we want. We have 400 shift stone, which means that we can. I forget exactly how much. Okay, so this is a common. Commons cost 50 shift stone to craft, and uncommons cost 100. So we can make 8 commons or 4 commons or some sort of combination of that. And we're going to have to fill it in with some somewhat undesirable cards, just because we need to get up to 75 cards. So right now this is at 57 out of 75, which means we need 18 more cards. We can craft 4 more commons, but we still need. We're going to need some more stuff. Okay. All right. Well, let's start with sticking in cards that fit the game plan of being really aggressive and continuing to attack. But that we already own, so we don't need any shift stones. So this Minotaur Grunt has Warcry, so we're going to go ahead and add it. It's not the best offensive creature, or offensive unit, but it does do some attacking. Let's see. We can go over here. No, we don't have any. Multi-faction cards. So right now, I'm just looking at cards that we already own. Ornate Katana. This sees some play, and this is a common. This used to see some play in these types of decks. I don't think it's fantastic, but I think it'll get the job done for now. We can certainly play one. Might be adding more later. Oh, Pyro Knight. Pyro Knight sometimes sees play in these decks, so we're going to go ahead and add that Pyro Knight. It's also a very powerful card in that once you get up to 6 power, you can pay 6 in order to ultimate her and get a permanent +4/+4, so she becomes a 6/5. Okay, so of the cards that I already... Oh, Piercing Shot. That's a good removal spell. So we'll go ahead and add a couple of those. We do need more units, though. I think that's the big thing that we're missing. Okay, so... I could play Mantle of Justice. That's not that great here, though, because we're split. Anyway, so when you want to create cards that you don't own, you can press this crafting. And this shows all copies of all cards available that you can craft. Unfortunately, it also shows all the premium cards, so we're looking at, like, you know, half of the cards that we can actually... or like the space isn't used very effectively because we are looking at 2 Roland's Honors cards. So I'm going to go back to that filters list, and I'm going to filter out the premium cards, and I'm also going to filter it so that's just commons and uncommons, because that's all we can afford right now. Even if we wanted to craft a rare, rares are 800 shift stones, and we wouldn't be able to craft any. Okay, so these are all the uncommons and commons in these factions. Let's start at looking at the multi-faction cards, and this is what it looks like. We've got Crownwatch Deserter, which is a common, and I think this card is pretty powerful, so we're going to go ahead and craft 4 copies of this one. I could actually expedite this process by adding 4 to the deck and then pressing Create All, which I guess I should have done. So maybe I'll do that for the next common that I want to craft. Let's see what else. Renegade Valkyrie is very good to get Warcried, but not the most exciting aside from that. Well, I mean, I do have a Finest Hour. But let's see if there's any other commons that I'm a little more interested in crafting. Any other Warcry units that are particularly appealing. This sees some play. It's very good against aggressive decks. But it's an uncommon, and we're looking for commons right now. We're just looking for things to just attack with, basically. Things to fill out our deck. Well, I could do Guerrilla Fighter. I'm not huge on this card, but it does let you attack a little, more than you would normally. It's also a common, which is of benefit. Maybe that's what I'll go with. Could also play a few of these random units. So Guerrilla Fighter exhausts an enemy unit and also has Warcry herself. So basically, it lets you make a... Whoa! I said I was gonna do it the other way. It makes an enemy unit not able to block, and does a bit of Warcrying herself. So as you can see, I've added 4 copies of her into the deck, but I don't own those cards, so this Create All button appears again. Now I'm going to press Create All. It shows the 3 Guerrilla Fighters, and to press the Create button. So now we are entirely out of Shiftstone. Now we have to make do with cards that we already have, and that's going to be tricky. So I'm going to turn off crafting. So it'll keep the filter of commons and uncommons. I guess we got rid of most of our rares anyway. I'll put in a couple long swords, sure, and a couple more units. So I'll put in these 2 Argenport soldiers. All right, so there's our deck. Here's our initial deck. Oh my god, there's so many of these question marks on the side, was just bugging me. Yeah, sometime when I'm not recording, I'll go through these and just get rid of them. Okay, so there's our deck to begin with. This is going to be the deck that we're going to run through the Gauntlet and see how many wins we can get against the computer. I'll talk about modes of play in a second. But yeah, there's our first draft, okay? Eventually we want this to be a shimmering deck full of legendary cards and rare cards, but right now, this is what we're working with. Okay. So, I'm going to go back to home, and I'm just going to take a second to explain the modes of play available. So there's the campaign, which we already completed. There's Gauntlet, which is what we're going to do in a bit. Gauntlet is a series of 7 opponents in which if you lose, you are kicked out. It's kind of like the Elite Four in Pokemon. You have to beat all 7 in order to win, and the last one has a special challenge attached to it. where the rules of the game are changed a little. Like perhaps you draw an additional card each turn. Both you and the computer draw an additional card each turn, or like I don't know. Cards can infiltrate any number of times. I don't know all the conditions of this, but the last battle in a Gauntlet is often very challenging. A Forge is similar to Arena in Hearthstone. You're given 3 options for cards that you can take, and you take one of them, and then it'll give you a new 3 options, and so on and so forth. Again, there's a string of 7 computer opponents that you are supposed to play against. If I didn't mention, in Gauntlet they are computer opponents. Anyway, so there's a string of 7 computer opponents, but you are allowed 1 loss. If you lose twice, then you're knocked out. Right, and your goal is to get to 7 wins before you lose twice. For both of these, by the way, it should go without saying, but the more wins you have, the more prizes you get, and we'll see that in action in a bit. There is Ranked, which is PvP, again, playing constructed decks against other human opponents. Each win, well, this will obviously increase your rank, but each win will also reward you with a bronze chest, and after 3 wins, you get a silver chest instead. So, and you can do this endlessly. Like if you play for 10 hours in one day, you can get maybe, I don't know, without doing math, you can farm 100 bronze chests and 50 silver chests in one day. I don't know if that's actually technically possible, but there is no limit to how much you can play ranked. And finally, we have Draft, which is the reason a lot of people play Eternal. It's similar to drafting in Magic the Gathering, in which you open a pack like the pack that we opened earlier. You take 1 card, and then the rest are passed to a player in the future, and you get passed a card from a player in the past that has one card removed. Whichever card they took is no longer in the pack, and you have 11 cards to choose from, and then you take one of those, and then you're passed 10 cards from the same person in the past that had drafted previously. It's a interesting system, the way that draft works. We'll talk more about it when we actually do draft. And one of the great things about this game is that in Forge and Draft you get to keep the cards, so that's very conducive to building a collection. Anyway, today, like I said, we are going to play our first Gauntlet in our first ranked game, so that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so Gauntlet is free. You can do this to your heart's delight. And we're going to go ahead and play that Rakano deck we just made. So we're trying to beat down. So it doesn't show the screen where it shows our progress, but we'll get to that in a bit. Our goal is to defeat 7 opponents without losing a single time. This hand looks great. We've got both factions, we've got aggressive units, and we even have a combat trick. Starting off with a rare. So the way that Gauntlet works is that actually it starts off pretty simple and then gets more difficult the more times you beat the Gauntlet. There are, quote, leagues in Gauntlet, which don't really have... It's more of a rating of difficulty than it is something actually meaningful. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and play this Rakano Outlaw. It's very good at attacking into smaller units because it has Warcry and Quick Draw, and our goal is to get some Warcries down, because that's what this deck is trying to do. So we're going to attack, we're going to Warcry, we're going to play another unit that has Warcry and attack with it. Alright, our opponent has a Magma Javelin that's going to go ahead and take down our Crown Watch Deserter. Don't get the Warcry because I didn't get to attack, but that's okay. Right, we're going to go ahead and Inspire. Inspire is an interesting card. It just cycles. It draws a card, but it basically has the effect of a Warcry. The top unit or weapon of your deck gets +1/+1. We're going to see if we draw a Sigil. Oh, we drew a weapon. Well, I'm going to go ahead and attack first, and as appealing as it is to play this weapon now, I'm actually going to get down the Crown Watch Paladin, which has Aegis, so that if I play the weapon on the Crown Watch Paladin and make it... Ooh. Oh, that's not good. Well, we're going to take some more damage. Well, my idea was that since an Aegis unit is a little more difficult to kill, if I put the longsword on the Aegis unit, it's a little safer. My investment is a little safer. But that's not what's happening. By the way, this card is usually a +2/+2 weapon, but because we Warcried once and played Inspire, it's a 4/4. +4/+4 weapon. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the Outlaw now and attack. They're never ever blocking this unit, I don't think. And play a 1/3, which is good at blocking the 1/1s that our opponent has. Opponent declines to attack. We're going to go ahead and just keep on getting in there with our 6/6. Our opponent's going to chump block, and we're going to take some damage because of it. The Grenadin, when it dies, deals 3 damage to our opponent, which is us. But I think we're okay. All we need to do is to get in one more hit with this Rakano Outlaw, and then we have Torch plus Finest Hour, which, ooh, that's annoying. Torch plus Finest Hour, which adds 6 damage, which would be exactly 12. We've also been Warcrying, so whenever we draw a weapon or a unit, such as this, it's going to be pretty big, and I'm actually going to use that to exhaust the taking Grenadin this turn. Now, I didn't really have to do that. I mean, they're going to be able to get the chump block off on the Grenadin at some point, but might as well make them wait a turn for it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and attack with both of these. If either of them gets through, then we win the game. Looks like opponent is just chump blocking. Go ahead and increase our board, and it looks like we will be able to punch through this board in short order. So let's see. If I torch this, my opponent has to chump block, and then they take 13, I believe. Keeping that guy alive allows them to chump block one of the 6 attack guys with it, and well, that means they're not dead this turn, but we were able to assemble lethal damage this turn. Alright. Okay, so that was the first of 7 matches that we have to win in a row against the computer. Here you can see our progress. Once this loss happens, then we are done with the Gauntlet. We finished our first game. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more to go. And as you can see, this the outline of this is bronze, 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 and then silver, silver, silver. Those refer to the chests that you get if you win these. So if I win up to here and then stop, I will get 3 bronze chests, excuse me. And if I win up to, say, here, then I would get 1 bronze chest, and the 2 of these would be upgraded to silver. Our goal, of course, is to just win the whole thing outright. Okay, so let's see. Sand's okay. It's functional, but it's not very exciting. I'm going to go ahead and redraw. Again, continuing the theme from the last video. If I don't like a hand very much, I'll go ahead and redraw it. I redraw pretty aggressively. Her opponent is playing the factionless cheap cards, so I can go ahead and get rid of this now. It's a nice little 2-for-1, but I think I'm actually just going to play the Oni Ronin. Try to get the war cries started early if I can. War and Shield. Maybe I should have torched it immediately, because now this is a 2/5, which means that blocks my units very well. Okay, well, I'll play the Crown Watch Paladin. We're going to take a hit from that humbug. And her opponent is playing another Village Watch. Okay. Alright, so we're in an interesting spot. We can actually just play the Sword of Ikaria and start going to town on my opponent's units. But the Sword of Ikaria will get hit by the Village Watch, and that's kind of annoying. But I think it's worth it. Oh, oops, not Torch. Sword of Ikaria, of course, a weapon that has Warcry. So I'm going to attack this 1/1. That's going to give me a Warcry, and the weapon is going to stick around. If my opponent doesn't attack me, I get to kill the other 1/1. But I think my opponent's going to attack with this 2/5, and I don't think I'm in the mood to chump block. Ooh, back alley bouncer? Okay, so I can torch that, and that will clear a path for my Crown Watch Paladin. My opponent is empty-handed, which is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and attack there with just that, making sure that I keep some units around in case I draw weapons. I'm going to go ahead and Inspire. I think that the post-combat Inspire is pretty good because after you get the Warcry from attacks, then you play Inspire, and if the card on top of your deck is the card that you Warcried, then you get to draw whatever it is that you Warcried. Here it wouldn't have actually mattered. Well, no, actually, this would have been, if I had played Inspire before attacking, this would have been a 5/4 instead of a 6/5. Anyway, either way, 6/5 weapon, very strong. Very happy to see that. Gonna go ahead and kill that 2/5. Okay, let's see if my opponent wants to attack here. I think they should, actually, but they don't. And I'll just keep on killing their units with this Sword of Ikaria. I'll get a lot of value out of this one big relic weapon, and that's one of the draws to this deck, is because well, my opponent finishes off with that spell, but one of the draws to this deck is that weapons that are Warcried tend to be very powerful. Okay, Crown Watch Paladin. Go ahead and play my Sigil. I don't really benefit from holding any sigils and trying to bluff something against the computer. I think the computer just plays one way no matter what. Okay, and our twice Warcried Crown Watch Paladin is going to start the Warcry train again. And if there's anything that my opponent plays that is big enough to kill the Crown Watch Paladin, I can just vanquish it. Alright, my opponent's going to go after the 2/1. It's fine. I can still attack pretty well into this board. I can actually attack with both. Trading the 1/3 for the 2/1 is a scenario that I'm okay with. My opponent double blocks, and they have a combined 3 attack out of there, and I only have 1 attack, so I only get to kill one of those units. But I feel pretty good about this Crown Watch Paladin that's just attacking every turn. If my opponent plays something big that can block the Crown Watch Paladin, like I said earlier, I can just vanquish it and keep on going on my merry way. Oh, nice. Okay, so this weapon got Warcried, so this is going to be absolutely huge. 10/8 now. And we even get to draw a card. That weapon, when you play it, you get to draw a card. But we drew a Sigil. But I think this should be too big for my opponent to tangle with. And if they did have a kill spell, it has Aegis as well. So it's protected from 1 kill spell. So we're looking at 2 more swings, and excuse me. And hopefully that will that'll finish the game off. And that's what this is looking like. All right. So 2 down, 5 to go. We are also progressing on our quest for 50 influence. Like I said, it's not too difficult to accomplish. All you basically get to do that by playing any deck, but it does take a while. I had to redraw that first hand because it only had 1 sigil. I am much more happy with a hand that has at least 2 sigils. So, and that's exactly what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and play that banner, even though it's depleted, because it'll give us influence for fire. If our opponent plays a an outlaw here, I think I want to piercing shot it, but they do not. I'll play a Crown Watch Paladin. My opponent's probably going to sit back and block. No, aggressive. Okay, we'll say no blocks because we want to attack as much as possible. Fearless Nomad, okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and piercing shot this Fearless Nomad. Good. I'll attack at the Warcry and I'll play Inspire. Alright, just another Sigil, that's fine. So we essentially have 2 Warcries going on now. Ooh, that's getting scary. It's a 5/3, but it's just going to sit back on defense. I think I'm just going to take this turn and play out my units. If I draw a Torch, then I can, or a Sword of Ikaria, I can deal with this guy without having to like, perfect, without having to put a weapon on one of these and throw the weapon and the unit into it. So a torch is great. My opponent could protect it if they had a pump spell, but they do not. I'm going to go ahead and I'll make one of the paladins a little stronger and attack with everything. Get some nice war cries. Oh, so this was an interesting case. I put a weapon on the paladin, right? But the paladin has Aegis, and when my opponent used Ruin to try to destroy the weapon, it actually breaks the Aegis instead. It's kind of strange and perhaps unintuitive how that works, but Aegis does protect any weapons or attachments that player or unit is holding. Okay, so we war cried a bunch of times. I've actually lost count. So we're going to play the Inspire, and sure enough, we get the Outlaw. So the next 3 war cries, never mind, I won't actually be able to use them. They're attacking. Attacking with this is a little strange. Holding it back, I think, is a better play because it makes it so that my opponent can't block the 1-3. And I'm going to go ahead and play the Outlaw. Sorry, do you need something? Oh, thank you. Okay. Looks like my opponent is going after my face with this detonate. Alright, since we drew a combat check, we're going to go ahead and attack with everything. So if any block doesn't look too good for us, we can go ahead and use Finest Hour in order to make this win combat against the Centaur. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and eat this piece of fudge that my girlfriend just handed me. You can't hold on to a piece of fudge, like, it'll just melt on your hand. Okay. And we just need to attack our opponent for 8 in order to finish this game off. So we're well on our way, 3 wins, need 4 more in a row. And as you can see, these bronze chests are accumulating here on the bottom. Another 1 sigil hand, we're going to go ahead and redraw it. This hand looked great. So far I've redrawn a bunch of hands, and every time, this doesn't always happen, but a lot of the time, the hand that you redraw into, given its restrictions in that it can only have between 2 and 5 power, and is generally speaking pretty functional, has wound up with us having a pretty functional hand, and that's good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this Diplomatic Seal. I didn't actually talk about this card, but it's a pretty nice one in that as long as you have 2 influence or less, it can provide influence over any faction. Now, I don't think I have... I know I have a double Justice card. I don't think I have any double Fire cards. So the actual influence that provides isn't very important, but remember, we're doing a quest where we need 50 influence, so each one counts, so to speak. Alright, so our opponent has a 4-3 out, and they just played a 3-2. I'm going to use the Sword of Icaria in order to take down the 4-3. We're going to take a hit from the 3-2, but our piercing shot will hopefully deal with that later. Can't block this yet. All I have is the 1-3. Spire Chaplain, that's pretty strong actually. This is 3-2 with upside, so I'm going to go ahead and piercing shot this guy, this girl, and play Oni Ronin. Actually, you know what? I can attack here. It didn't occur to me that I'd actually be able to attack through this board. My opponent only has 2 1/1s, which if they try to double block the Minotaur Grunt, I get to kill one of them, and they don't get to kill mine, because they're only doing 2 damage. Okay, so now my opponent can attack with the Ardenport Soldier and offer the trade with my Oni Ronin, but that's a trade that I'm not going to make because this has Warcry, so I want it to attack. I'm going to go ahead and play the Gorilla Fighter to exhaust the 3-2 that they have and attack with this Oni Ronin. If my opponent wants to kill this Oni Ronin, they have to double block, and getting a 2-for-1 with the Oni Ronin and the Warcry added bonus, that's a trade I'm very happy to make. My opponent continues to be aggressive. That's fine. All I want to do is Warcry, so I'm going to go ahead and exhaust the 2-5, then get in there. Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and take an additional 2 damage just to get another Warcry off, and inspire after, so that I can even play this turn. There's a small chance that you can even play the card that's inspired, but I think the real purpose for inspire is so that you can diversify the cards that are that have the Warcry, and they're going to block with everything. I can take down their 2 bigger units with this single Oni Ronin, but I do lose the Oni Ronin. It's worth it for me because it allows me to attack in the future. Alright, my opponent played a 3-4, which is kind of annoying because that doesn't let my 3-2 attack. I think I'll just attack with the 4-3. These will trade, but I do get another Warcry. And then that clears the way for the rest of my units. Okay. Let's go ahead and keep the Warcries going. This is these games have been a pretty good example of what the deck wants to do. It wants to be aggressive early and then have a big threat in the mid game that you get via the Warcries, such as this, that your opponent just can't deal with. They can't deal with the early aggression plus this big mid game threat. Anyway, exhausting isn't terribly useful when the unit is already exhausted, but the targeting of that allows me to break the Aegis. And actually I'm going to go for the kill here, torching this and then attacking for, 11 here. Go ahead and press A space. Oh, well, we might as well play the Pyro Knight and show you what it can do. So this says ultimate pay 6 to give it +4/+4. It's typically a 2-1, but it's Warcry twice, so it's a 4-3. And then I click on it, and it uses its ultimate and gets a permanent +4/+4. And since I had 8 power, I was able to both play it for 1 power, and then use the ultimate for 6 power. Anyway, let's do some attacks, and that should be the game. Alright, 4 wins. We have 3 more to go. We're also about 60% through our quest of the day, which is to gain 50 influence. Okay, so this hand, I don't like hands like this very much because only having one faction can be really unfortunate. It's true that in this game, this is pretty. What's the word? It lets you draw out of these situations a little better than you would be able to in, say, Magic. For example, if I draw a Fire Sigil after playing these two, I can play both Torch and Piercing Shot in the same turn because all they require is that I have influence. They don't actually use up the influence for fire. In any case, but this hand might be strong enough with the Crownwatch Paladin into Crownwatch Longsword. Funny how those cards work well together. And just getting a 4/4 attacker on turn 3 that's going to Warcry each turn, I'm going to go ahead and keep it. This may be a poor decision, and I will admit that. And I frequently redraw hands like these, but just the power of the Crownwatch Paladin early on is enough to make me want to keep this hand. Okay, so this can potentially draw a card each turn, and sure enough, I'm getting punished by drawing fire cards each turn. But this doesn't guarantee a card. Okay, Kel's favor. Our opponent's playing a pretty aggressive deck, actually. This could be problematic. This says if the top card is a spell, draw it. So it draws a card some percentage of the time. This doesn't look good. I think that I need to get the value out of the Warcry each turn if I can, though. Alright, that Aegis will actually block the 2 damage from the piercing shot, but the piercing shot can still kill the Tundra Explorer. And my opponent has drawn 2 cards, which is making me feel real jealous. Alright, we finally drew the Fire Sigil. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this Tundra Explorer. There we go. And go ahead and play this Oni Ronin. So we were finally saved by drawing a Fire Sigil. And because of the way this game's resource system works, we were actually be able to play both fire cards on the turn that we drew that Fire Sigil. If this was Magic, for example, we would only be able to play 1 fire card this turn. Okay, so this is looking actually very good for us. We've got Piercing Shot to take this down. We can attack for 7, and we're actually just 1 point short from killing them this turn with the Torch. You can really see the power of the early Crownwatch Paladin, just attacking for 4 on turn 3 and Warcrying each turn. Well, our opponent is going to get an Aegis, but you know what? This Crownwatch Paladin is a lethal attacker, so if I can just force this through, I'll be able to do lethal next turn. Uh-oh, assembly line. Okay. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to torch one of these. I'm going to attack. My opponent is going to chump block, and then I'm going to use a sword. I guess I should use this sword. It's a bigger sword. In order to kill the last one. And I'm doing that. I'm using all of these removal because that way my opponent can't attack back on the sword. I was saying in the earlier video where they have a ruin. Where you want to play your weapon on a board where you either have defenders to defend your weapon, or if your opponent has an open board, because that way you get to get more attacks in. Anyway, we were able to just get in there with the Crownwatch Paladin, and that was enough. So that was a bit of a scary game, but we managed to prevail, and that's 5 wins, so 2 more. Hopefully I can win this next one, so I can show you what the Gauntlet boss looks like, because it's pretty interesting. We're against the Strangers. This tends to be a very powerful deck. We played this at the very end of the campaign, played against the Strangers in the very end of the campaign, and they're going to be problematic because they're just going to flood the board with 2 power... yeah, I can leave this with this. With 2/2s, and then those 2/2s have a tendency to gain other abilities or grow. So I'm just going to attack and offer the trade. Go ahead and get Fire Influence here. Attack and offer the trade, get the Warcry. Good. I think that if I can continually Warcry and keep my opponent's board presence down to a minimum, then I can win this game. So Combrave Stranger. It may feel bad to... go ahead and play this now. It may feel bad to trade the 2/2 for their 2/2, but I think that if we're down to the last card we have versus the last card our opponent has, we're in a pretty good position. I'm going to play this Crownwatch Deserter, and I'm actually going to try to protect this a little more because it is a 3/3, which is bigger than the average Stranger. Like I said, my opponent flooding the board with 2/2s. So this is actually a really interesting position, and it's actually really good for us. We get to attack a 3/3 into the 2/2s. Now normally, someone could double block the 3/3, and we would only be able to kill one of them, so they would be trading a 2/2 for a 3/3, which is very favorable for them. I don't know about very favorable, just favorable. But since we have this Finest Hour, we get to buff the Crownwatch Paladin, or Crownwatch Deserter rather, into a 6/6, and that is big enough to take down both of our opponent's units. That is what we call a blowout. Using a combat trick. When you use a combat trick in order to take down 2 units instead of just 1. A lot of the times you'll just attack your 3/3 into your opponent's 3/3 and then use Finest Hour in order to kill their 3/3, but if they're in a position where they have to double block, sometimes you can get a 2-for-1 with your combat trick. Okay, so let's suit up, and I don't think I need to put the katana on anything. Just going to go ahead and attack, get a few more war cries, get a lot of damage in, and play out another unit. I can play the katana next turn, depending on what my opponent has. I guess they just have another 2/2. They're attacking. That is a bold move, but I suppose their plan is to block my 3-2 with their 2-2. Anyway, let's suit this guy up, this girl up, I suppose, and attack with everything. My opponent can trade for the 3-2, but that leaves them at 1. They're going to go ahead and chump block. Generally speaking, you don't want to chump block in a game like this. A game that's all about board position. Maybe not all about, but like about board position and card advantage. My opponent actually played a very scary, ferocious stranger. Now this is one of the reasons why I wanted to cut down on my opponent's board. This buffs all of the other strangers that are on the board, and if my opponent had all those random 2-2s, now they would suddenly be doing 4 damage because of the double damage that this ferocious stranger grants. Fortunately for us, we have our opponent dead on board. Oh, I suppose I should play the Sigil first to gain influence and go toward the quest. We're going to go ahead and deal 7, and that's going to be enough. Okay, great. So now we're on to the final boss, and as you'll see, there will be a fun little challenge associated with the final boss. We've won 6 in a row. Alright, what's it going to be? Okay. Players can play an extra power card each turn. That's actually really bad for us. This will benefit decks that have high top end or good top end, and they can get their stronger cards out first. And I think in order to beat this, I'm going to need a really aggressive start. And this hand has no units, so I will have to redraw. This is more of what I'm looking for. You can play 2 power cards a turn. So, yeah, you can have some pretty nutty starts. This Awakened Student is absolutely terrifying, but fortunately we have a Torch to deal with it. So, I'm going to go ahead and play Oni Ronin. I'm going to Torch. This Awakened Student, if you recall from from earlier in this video series, has Empower. Whenever you play a power card, it gets +1/+1. So it can get out of hand really, really quickly. My opponent can play 2 powers, and it will be a 4/4. Anyway, so this is going to be tough. Oh my god. And this guy doubles its attack and health each turn that you, each time you play a power. Okay, so my opponent's down to 1 card left in their hand, but if this becomes too big, there's nothing I can do. I'm going to go ahead and attack. I think I'm okay trading it with the District Infantry. Well, I don't know, maybe that was a bit loose. I'm going to go ahead and play the Crown Watch Deserter. So, yeah, there it is. It becomes a 4/4. No blocks. And a Xenon Guardian. Oh gosh. Okay. Alright, so this isn't going to be impossible, but it's certainly going to be tough. I'm going to attack here, get my Warcry off if my opponent wants to trade. I think I'm okay with that, and then play Crown Watch Paladin and the Longsword and hope my opponent offers to trade here and they don't draw a oh shoot, now it's an 8/8. So as you can see, this challenge can be pretty difficult. If it weren't for the allowing players to play 2 power cards a turn, this would not have been so threatening so quickly. We would be on, what, 4 power, and it would be a 2/2 or something, for example. Oh, and now it's a 16/16. So, we have to draw Vanquish, otherwise we will die. We have 3 Vanquishes, which kills a unit that has 4 attack or greater. But that is pretty much the only card that can save us. Even a 6/6 Crown Watch Deserter is not going to do it. I could attack and get another Warcry in, but I'd rather have the 6/6. Oh, this is now 32/32. Go ahead and block. Nope, not a Vanquish. You have to chump block again. If I can draw a Vanquish, I might have a chance, but my chances are definitely dwindling. And they play a 5/2. So yeah, if this isn't a Vanquish, oh, it's a Vanquish. So we do stay alive, but we're certainly not in a good spot. We had to chump block twice and throw away a couple units, a 6/6, a 4/4, and like something else that I was not interested in throwing away, just to survive. We're going to have to draw some more action in order to, just in order to stay alive even. My opponent isn't playing very smart, as you might expect from the computer. They should save the power in their hand for when for when I have something that can trade with it. For example, if they don't play a power now, I mean, suppose if they don't play a power, they have something that can probably kill us. Messenger Falcon. Fine. We could actually get through this. Alright. Oh, I don't think that there's... Oh, I should have attacked. That was a bit of a misstep on my side. But I don't think it's going to matter. I think that we lost too many resources from the Order of the Spires. Ooh. Okay, well, I can kill the Messenger Falcon if for some reason my opponent doesn't want to attack. Maybe we can get out of this. No, they're just going to get flying and we're going to die. So, as you can see, the Gauntlet boss can be very challenging. Sometimes you get an effect that actually benefits you, and it's not so bad, but it almost always, or they're all designed to benefit whichever deck the computer is playing for as the boss of the Gauntlet. So yeah, that was our first Gauntlet run. We got 6 wins, which isn't bad. We get 2 silver chests and a bronze chest. We also completed this quest, which allows us to do a free forge, which I'll do in the next video. And we completed our gain 50 influence quest. So we're going to get an additional 2 silver chests there. So again, these have about 200, ooh, very, very nice. About 200 gold and a uncommon. The gold chests have about 500 gold and a pack. And then here's the, oh, we get a free forge. Okay, that's nice. And we also finished, oh, yes, here we are going to claim our prizes. As you can see, the play button turns into a claim button as soon as you've gotten your loss. Anyway. So, 2 silver chests and a bronze chest. Yeah, about 50 gold and a common for the bronze chests. Anyway. So, let's go ahead and open that pack. And let's see, ooh, that is actually a very good constructed card. It sees a lot of play in a lot of the Stone Scar, Feldscar decks. Just a very efficient threat. It becomes a 5/5, overwhelm deadly very quickly, and it's very difficult to deal with in an efficient manner. Okay, so as I promised earlier, we're going to go ahead and try to play our first ranked match. I suppose, oh, we don't even have to win it. So we're just going to go ahead and play our first ranked match. That will probably be a lot more ranked in a future video. So here's the ranked. You choose your deck, you press play, and you wait for an opponent, and this is going to be our first human opponent. We're pretty happy with the Rokano deck that we built. I mean, I feel like that the boss had a very favorable, not just like a favorable draw, but also a favorable condition for that last game, a favorable special rule. Anyway, we're against a real opponent in Fate's Fortune. I'm going to go ahead and redraw this hand. It does have a turn 2 Crown Watch Paladin, but doesn't have the sword to back it up. So this hand's pretty nice because it has a Crown Watch Paladin, and it also has the Sword of Ikaria to help clear the way for the Crown Watch Paladin. And if our opponent is dirtling a little too much, maybe we can hit them with a Minotaur Grunt. But it looks like they have the same... Oh, no, Seek Power. I wonder what they're up to. Alright, let's just go ahead and play that Crown Watch Paladin. It's a pain in the butt for decks with lots of removal to deal with. And then if they don't play much, we can use Sword of Ikaria on them, which is pretty good. We get to Warcry a second time on our third turn. We'll go ahead and attack. Oh, and when you're playing against human opponents, you can actually get interesting tells. Like here, I know my opponent has a fast spell. Based on the pauses that a player is prompted with. So normally, if my opponent has no available actions in that situation, then it will not pause there. My opponent has no blocks, they have no fast spells. There will not be a pause, and it'll go straight to the attack and my opponent taking damage. Here, I know my opponent has a fast spell because it paused both there and at the end of my turn, so they had the opportunity to play the torch. However, I also know that is the only fast spell they have because they played that torch. They played that torch, and then it went straight to their turn. Okay, and this is kind of an interesting position. If they have another Sword of Ikaria, we actually get to kill the sword with the finest arrow and deal some damage to them. This is pretty nice. So they're going to attack our unit. We're going to Finest Hour it. This becomes a 4/6, and the 3/2 weapon can't kill the 4/6, and we ended up dealing our opponent 2 extra damage. So we're going to go ahead and attack. Looks like there's no fast spell. That time you saw that there was no pause. This is pretty advanced stuff, but you can gain a huge edge if you can pick up on this type of thing while you're playing. And I think this is one of the edges that I have over some opponents, especially when I draft, because I know which fast spells appear when. Oh, that is actually a huge problem. So they played an Endurance Charge unit. First of all, that can't be exhausted by this. Second of all, it was able to finish off our Sword of Ikaria. So we got a couple war cries on this Guerrilla Fighter, which is pretty nice. But this is a problem. As it stands now, and since our opponent not having a fast spell, we can double block and be able to kill the Battle Blur Centaur. And this doesn't have war cries, so it's not actually gaining a ton of value. Ooh, Hero of the People, interesting. If they play the Hero of the People first and then the Battle Blur Centaur, this would be pretty big. So Hero of the People is an interesting card. It says whenever you play a unit, this gains its battle skills, and it has +1/+1 for each of her battle skills. I'm actually going to go ahead and exhaust her so that I can attack with the Guerrilla Fighter this turn and get that war cry, because I think that will that's more important than blocking right now, I believe. And my opponent doesn't block. They just take the 5. They had a free block there, but I suppose they wanted to protect this in case I had a Finest Hour or a Torch. Okay, so I'm pretty afraid of this Hero of the People. It can get really out of hand fast. That 3/2 isn't terribly exciting. But yeah, my opponent gets a free attack here. It's okay. Oh, geez. Now I see why. They want to suit it up with a longsword. Okay. Well, if that's the case, oops, another sigil. We don't have much to gain by holding sigils. We want to draw a Vanquished in order to deal with this Battle Blur Centaur, but our opponent, I believe, has 3 action cards in their hand, 3 non-sigils. They're attacking there. They're thinking twice about it. Well, we need something. I think if it attacks, I don't actually want to block, because I want to keep this 5/4 around to threaten to block these units. Anyway, so that's our it's pretty nice. I think the buff there on the Crown Watch Deserter is actually pretty relevant. Unfortunately, if our opponent plays a flyer, we're in a lot of trouble. We don't have any flying in our deck to break this board stall. We're really just counting on maybe a combat trick or maybe a Vanquish in order to deal with the Battle Blur Centaur. Mantle of Justice, 7/6 and 5/8. Well, this is interesting. I'm going to team up to block the 5/8 here. I'm going to try to trade the 5/8 for one of my units. Oh, you know what? 7/6, 7. That's exactly 7. Shoot. Yeah, I don't think the power is very important. I would much rather go on the offensive on the next turn. So I traded the 5/8 endurance for just one of my units. I think that's a pretty good trade for me. Now I suppose I can attack with this Guerrilla Fighter and offer the trade. Well, I can offer trading both. You know what? I think it's good to attack with both. My opponent can. What if I attack with everything? I don't know. My opponent's getting kind of low. I don't think it's worth attacking with the 1/3. That's a chump attack into the 3/2. They can block this here, block this here. So my opponent can trade this here, or they can trade both of these here. And I think I'm okay with either of those. I get the war cries, which is nice, and it's dealing a lot of damage to my opponent. My opponent is actually at very low health. Unless they have other things in their hand that they can play, they might be. Oh, okay. Well, now we're dead. Now we're very dead. Our opponent played a Roland Sonnegaard. I was talking about how good this card is in a lot of situations earlier, and sure enough, they gave this flying and lifesteal, and they're going to attack with 10. I can't attack into this, And yeah, we just lose. Okay, well, that was our first rank game. Hopefully the next one will go a little better. But in any case, we get the bonus placement games to see which league we get placed into. But that completes our quest, and that gives us a little more gold to work toward. We even get theme deck. I'm going to hold on a second and talk a little more about gold. The gold is going to accumulate for a while, and it costs 5,000 gold to draft. Now, that seems like a lot, and it is, but when you draft, you get 4 packs guaranteed from the 4 packs you open, and you start off with, you're guaranteed 2 silver chests as prize. And if you win, you can get way more prizes. If you win 6 or 7 drafts, you basically get enough gold to draft again, and you keep all the cards that you opened, and you get 3 additional packs as prizes. So drafting can be very lucrative, especially if you can chain together drafts by winning enough. Anyway, so onto this screen. I believe it's like once a week, if you're active, the game will actually give you theme decks. There are 5 theme decks right now, right? 1 for each supported color pair right now, and they also come with a quest. We'll see more of this in a second. So we get the Elysian Wisdom deck. I'm actually going to end up disenchanting most of this, but I can show you what is in this deck. We're going to go ahead and take a look and edit this deck. Looks like it comes with so this is an Elysian deck, which is the name given to the multi-faction group, I guess. Multi-faction, I don't know what to call it. If you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, this is like the guilds. So this is Time and Primal. And let's see what we have. We have Initiate of the Sands, good at a very good 1-drop at adding to the power, some removal and Lightning Strike and Static Bolt. Looks like we actually have some Echo cards. We've got Twin Brood Sauropod, which is a big 5/4 Echo, and Teriax Hatchling, which is a 2/1 Echo. And then we have a few ways of like drawing cards, and a few cards that benefit from drawing cards, such as Amaran Camel, which says whenever you draw a card, you gain 1 health. And all these cards were just handed to us. There's a lot of uncommons here. As you can see, these cards are all uncommons, but there were also a couple rares. The Champion of Wisdom and the Mistveiled Drake. And we're going to go ahead and disenchant them. Oh, and Merzin's Disciple, that's another rare. So 3 rares. That's a good 600. Well, actually, I shouldn't disenchant this one, but or the Mistveiled Drake, actually. But that brings us closer to being able to craft some of the rares that we need. We have all the non-rare cards again. In order to make the deck that we're building, we just need to start crafting the rares and the legendaries. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. We went ahead and explored the deck editor. Then we played our first Gauntlet in our first rank game. We'll certainly be doing a lot more of that in the future, because we've got a pretty significant way to go in order to get up to that that tier 1 deck that we're trying to build. But this is the first taste of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. For more content, be sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I stream Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Usually, it's not going to be as beginner friendly, but I do play Eternal for several hours on those days on stream. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next installment, and until then, have a good time, enjoy yourself, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.